Hi everybody, this is Dino Chris from Prehistoric Facts. This is an answering questions episode. We got two of them today, so let's actually get right down to it. Brenda from Morris, New York. Is there any college courses online? Which colleges should I try? Well, it depends on what you're actually going for. If you're what kind of major you're actually going into. As you see, if you're going into like geology, you need to look for a school that actually has a good geology program. If you're into paleontology, it's part of geology, but even though if you're into paleontology, you have to go to a school that actually has a very strong paleontology program. You can't really just actually pick a school that you actually think that is actually going to have a very good geology or paleontology program just because you actually feel like that the school is going to help you. Even though they might give you good information, but sometimes they don't always actually give you the most up-to-date information. They actually will have certain types of information that might not fall into what you're looking for. So just be cautious of what kind of school that you want to go to. But even though, just make sure that you can actually just try to find whatever kind of program that you want to go into. And as for online courses in terms of geology or paleontology, I don't think there is, because I don't think you want to take a geology class based online, because that's really gonna cause certain things that could actually go wrong for the professor. Mainly that you can't identify rocks just by looking at a picture. You need the actual specimen in your hand, and that really actually has to be the thing. There is that geology mainly will actually be just a face-to-face type of class. So that's all I can give you on to that. YouTuber the name Sal says, I actually asked this question: what are dinosaurs classified as? Birds, reptiles, or something else? Well, technically birds are dinosaurs if you actually kind of think of it that way. They are theropod dinosaurs. They actually have the three-toe feet. They walk on two legs. Their legs are underneath their hips. They actually kind of have the small arms. They do actually have hollow bones, and they actually have the same traits as theropod dinosaurs. So birds are technically dinosaurs. But what are dinosaurs actually classified as? It's pretty much is that they have both bird and reptilian features, but they become their own thing. You see, they're not really fall into line of either bird or reptile. It's just that they're their own thing. Dinosaurs are their own thing, and that's all I can give to you. Give to you is that their common ancestor was a reptile, but even though they're actually kind of becoming their own thing and actually kind of start to evolve into what we call birds of today. And so that's what I can give to you on that. Alright, that's all for the questions today. Now, I'm actually going to talk about that paper that actually came out on Wednesday. It's about the Tyrannosaurus Rex skin impressions that have been published. Mainly, these skin impressions are actually from Y-Rex. And also, they actually took some skin samples from like Albertosaurus and Gorgosaurus. They don't really have skin impressions of Tarbosaurus or Daspletosaurus. They just mainly have Gorgosaurus, Albertosaurus, and T-Rex, mainly Y-Rex. And I looked at this paper through and through, and I would say there's a little bit more cons in this paper. Mainly is just that these authors are well-known paleontologists. But the thing is that I think what they were trying to do is be in a hurry with this kind of information. I wouldn't be surprised that the publisher actually said that you got to have this paper done by this due date, because otherwise this won't be published ever. And then that could actually be the case, is that they were in a hurry to get this information and put this information on, and they just didn't actually look at it through like thoroughly to see if there's any pros and cons. But basically, the thing about having a scientific paper being published, it has to go through a lot of other scientists to actually say that this is actually a well-written paper. And for those scientists that say that's a well-written paper, I would say that they probably didn't actually look at this information very carefully, as I think that's what actually is going on here. But when you actually look at mainstream media, what they actually try to do is a thing called awesome bro, which is that they actually take something that is scientific from a paper, and they only get like one or two things, and then they'll just make a headline that is just like overreacting about the type of information that is given. And what you kind of saw on Wednesday and Thursday was that you kind of saw that like mainstream media was going like, oh, Tyrannosaurus Rex was fully covered in scales and it didn't have feathers. Well, the thing is that the skin samples on Y-Rex are so small. These are like millimeters or centimeters, that kind of small. It's not in inches or in feet. There's not enough skin impression to actually say that there is full scales on T-Rex and other Tyrannosaurs. Because I think what these scientists actually tried to do was disclaim that Eutyrannus and D. Long were exceptions for Tyrannosaurs to have feathers. That's because they actually did have feathers, but then once the Tyrannosaurs got bigger, they lost a lot of their feathers, and they just decided to turn off that ancestral trait of actually having feathers. But even though they do actually say that this information that they are publishing may not be accurate for long enough, and that would actually be the case is that they don't have enough evidence to support that Tyrannosaurus Rex and other Tyrannosaurs were fully covered in scales. It doesn't add up. And so mainly the skin impressions on Y-Rex are on the bottom part of the T-Rex, mainly in the bottom of the neck, all the way down to the bottom of the tail. That's it. They don't have anything on the top, so that on the top part of the animal. So that really kind of gives an idea that maybe Tyrannosaurus Rex did have feathers. They're not the more dramatic feathers that we see on birds today. They're probably just more primitive type of feathers, kind of like a quill, like feathers, or otherwise maybe like some quills, maybe a few branches off of it, but that's okay. But you know, that I would still be in support of that. I'd say that Tyrannosaurus Rex does have scales and feathers, and other Tyrannosaurs have that pattern as well, because they see once you have that ancestral trait of having feathers, you will actually have that trait no matter what. If it does get turned off, that mainly is because that type of family of animals decided to just pretty much evolved to actually have that ancestral trait turned off. But I would say that the ancestral trait was still on the large Tyrannosaurus to actually have feathers. So I would say that this is actually a paper that was probably put too much in a hurry, and I would say that there are some pros, mainly probably like say 20% is pro, and a lot of it is con. So I would actually say that like they don't have enough evidence to support that Tyrannosaurus Rex was fully covered in feathers, and even other large Tyrannosaurs. They just don't have enough. I would say that like scientists will still continue to actually try to look at that evidence, and then they actually say, well, and if there's like a few of them that say you guys don't have enough to actually support that Tyrannosaurus Rex and other large Tyrannosaurs were fully covered in scales, that would be the case there. And so just a reminder, don't read a lot of the mainstream media about paleontology, because they take things out of context. And also just look at the actual journal. Look at the actual journal article. This journal article is in Biology Letters. Look it up, and you'll find it. It's actually very easy to find, and just make sure that you read this very carefully. If you do support Tyrannosaurus Rex having scales, I have no problem with that. If you do support that Tyrannosaurus Rex actually was fully covered in feathers, I support that. And if you're actually willing to say it probably have both feathers and scales, I support that as well. I'm more on the both feathers and scales. That's probably my opinion on that. And so just keep in mind, don't read what mainstream media is actually trying to say about certain journal articles, just because they only get like one or two things out of a journal article, and then they just take it out of context. And scientists get mad at mainstream media because they know that the media just doesn't care about the actual evidence that they actually have. They just rather take a couple things that is out of the journal article, and then they just publish it like crazy. And so just keep in mind, just look at the actual journal article, and And if you actually do say that, like, maybe my opinion might not be as factual, I mean, that's fine, you know, because this is just an opinion, you know, to me. You know, I'd say that this journal article could have been written in a different matter. I think if they had more evidence, if they had more information about this, I would actually say maybe they should have actually just waited like another like month or so to actually publish this, so that way they could actually just like look at this information carefully, and then they actually will publish it a little bit properly, and also add more information if they needed to. All right, that's it for now. Now this coming weekend will actually be an extra episode. So tell me, what kind of prehistoric TV documentary series you want me to talk about, or prehistoric, or otherwise a dinosaur movie that you want me to talk about? Let me know, and I can actually do this video sometime this coming weekend. And you can also still send me questions about dinosaurs and other prehistoric animals, prehistoric life, by emailing me at dinochris71@gmail.com, or just go on my Facebook page, Prehistoric Facts with Dino Chris. Like the page, you can actually post your questions on the wall or in the comment section. But remember, keep your questions short and to the point. You can also follow me on Twitter at CSGRILL. At CSGRILL. It's my Twitter page. I post pretty cool stuff on there. Also, take care of the people around you, and also for younger people out there, make sure to listen to your parents, your teachers, and your guardians. It's the best motivation you can have for good education. It's very important to have good education with a good education. You do a good job in the future. All right, that's it for now, and I'll see you guys this coming weekend.